welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live, yes, all the way live from Blackbird Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Listen, it has been a wild and funky week if you are a Georgian. I ain't finna get all up in Herschel Walker's business, but since everybody's getting up in Herschel Walker's business, see, that's what they get for picking an idiot. They picked an idiot to run for office. He already told you he wasn't very smart. Now he's making y'all look like fools. But y'all getting what y'all deserve for trying to be, because you know what that like, y'all think black folks are so stupid, we'll just vote for any old dumb black person. No, just like we won't vote for just any old dumb white woman. Come on now. What y'all thinking? But that's what y'all get. Y'all got a clown, and now y'all got to deal with it. So much so that his son went all the way off on him this week. I feel bad for you, Georgia, but what you could do, just go ahead and vote for Raphael Warnock, vote for Stacey Abrams, and make Georgia beautiful. But, back to Indiana. Well, no, not Indiana yet. I want to talk about something. My president did something today that made me extremely happy. USA Today reports President Biden announced Thursday that he is pardoning people with federal convictions for simple possession of marijuana, a historic move that could help more than 6,500 people and sends a powerful message on how such actions should be treated. The vast majority of convictions occur at the state level. The president is urging governors to likewise pardon those offenders. Too many lives have been upended because of our failed approach to marijuana, Biden said in a video announcement. It's time that we right the wrong. Biden is also asking the Department of Justice and Health and Human Services to review how marijuana should be scheduled under federal law. White House officials said the president is making the move to fulfill a campaign promise as efforts in Congress to address the issues that have stalled. Okay, check this out, y'all. There are too many places in this country that have legalized marijuana. We know that white folk, black folk, brown folk, all folk smoke weed at the same rate. But for some reason, black and brown folk seem to be doing the most time in our jails and prison for possession. Now, here in Marion County, we know Prosecutor Mears has said, look, I'm not prosecuting for less than a pound. Just not doing it. I ain't got time for that. I got real stuff to deal with. Now you have the president saying, I'm going to pardon all federal cases. You know when we say Democrats deliver? Democrats deliver. He just keeps making it rain. He keeps making it happen for y'all. And why we are not supporting more Democrats at all levels of government is beyond me, because we are the party that actually believes in people and fighting for people. Those other clowns, they believe in lies, innuendos, making babies, and lying about abortions. Speaking of liars and people who should not be elected to office, the Indy Star reports the chair of the Indiana Republican Party has indicated he knew about a sexual assault allegation against Republican Secretary of State candidate Diego Morales for more than a month before it was published in a gossip column Friday. You know what? I know Abdul ain't happy about his Indy politics being called a gossip column, but I'm gonna go with that. At the meeting, she shared with me elements. Wait a minute, I missed a paragraph. My bad. Kyle Humpher said in a statement that a Republican asked to meet with him 2 months after the party nominated Morales at the Republican convention in mid-June. At the meeting, she shared with me elements of a story that have now been made public. It wasn't then, nor is it now, my story to share. Morales denied the allegations in a statement of his own on Friday. On Friday morning, political writer Abdul Hakim Shabazz published interviews with two women who said they had been sexually assaulted by Morales years ago. The stories appeared in Shabazz's publication, The Cheat Sheet. The allegations are the latest controversy to touch Morales, who was nominated by Republican delegates at the convention despite once being fired from the very office he now seeks. His military experience has also been scrutinized after he made it the focus of his campaign, despite spending a total of just 3 months and 18 days on active duty as part of his training period. Okay, check this out, y'all. We know what we got to do. We got to vote our destiny. We got to make sure that we send Destiny Wells. Oh, by the way, they're having a debate October the 10th. WFYI or PBS is sharing that. So wherever you are in the state, make sure you get a chance to tune in and watch her debate. Now, I doubt if Diego Morales is going to show up because, you know, like Jim Banks, like so many other cowardly Republicans, they will not show up to talk to the people. They will not allow their ideas to go against Democratic ideas. They're scared because they know they all full of it. They full of lies, deceit, innuendo, propaganda, all of that good stuff. They want to keep telling us we ain't seeing what we saw on January 6th. They not right for us, y'all. But in order for us to make these changes, we have got to get out here, support some candidates, do a little bit of sweat equity. You don't have to give every day to a candidate, but you got to give some to a candidate. And if you don't have any money, just give a little bit of time. But if you can't walk, maybe you can hand out water to those who are walking. If you're not comfortable with making phone calls, maybe you can bake some cookies for people who are phone banking. There are so many other ways to help out candidates. And if you're not sure, hit me up, indianazone.com. I'm here. I can give you all kinds of ways to help candidates up and down the state. Diego Morales is horrendous. The fact that he is being accused of sexual assault means that he is down with touching things that don't belong to him. Now, we just debated not long ago in a special session about whether or not women should be able to have abortions due to sexual assault, rape, and incest. So we're actually going to put somebody in the office who is capable of such behavior. Not only are you saying that women's rights are only valid when they've been violated to begin with, you're going to put somebody in there who doesn't value women at all. And the fact that Tom Rokita, who fired Diego Morales, is so happy to endorse and stand right next to him at a fundraiser, is willing. He's the attorney general. Is he going to prosecute Diego Morales when another allegation comes up? The guy that you stood in the picture with, you fired twice for not being able to do the job? Destiny Wells. She's coming on the show. You know I got her booked. I got her booked for a whole hour by herself. Watch the debate, October 10th. Also, don't forget, Todd Young is actually going to show up. I ain't mad at him. He's going to show up. Sorry to hear about the loss of his father. I'm going to share that. He lost his father on Monday. Sorry about that. I know how I felt to lose my daddy. But watch that October 16th, another PBS. So we have an opportunity to hear from our statewide candidates in these incredible debates. These are important. Now, y'all tell me, I can stream it live and maybe have a panel of Indiana experts like they do on all the other shows, and we can sit around and talk about the debate if you like. I'd be more than happy to do that. I think it would be fun, making more community, ask questions, things like that. You know, maybe I'll do that. I'll do that next Monday because it's next Monday is Indigenous Day, so I'm taking the day off. Per Act Blue, they give us the day off. So pay attention, help the candidates. That's my rant because I have two amazing candidates I want you guys to get to know. I've been watching these two shine. And it's so much fun to see people run for office who want to serve and are willing to give up time with family, time at social events to serve you. First up, and I always mess up your last name, so I should have practiced it before we got on. Running for House seat number 5, Heidi Beidinger. Woo! You see how when you not sure, you just wait.
There you go.
How you doing today?
Man, I'm fantastic. Always. That's my answer until November 8th. I am fantastic.
I love it. Next up, wearing his Indiana Stonewall Democrats pin, I'm loving it, is Joe Swisher, running for Indiana Senate District 17. Joe, well, how you doing today, bro?
I'm doing awesome, and I'm really honored to be here with you because I love you. You're a fired up Democrat, and that gets me excited.
Yay! Because you know what, both of y'all sound like we about to have a good show. So did y'all want to, you know what? Let's talk real quick before we dive into who y'all are and where y'all come from. What are y'all thinking about President Biden pardoning federal marijuana charges and convictions across the country? Heidi, I'm gonna start with you.
Oh my gosh. I mean, this is a bombshell, right? I certainly didn't hear any hint that this was coming down the pike. But I am absolutely thrilled that he's taken this position and that he's moving in this direction. You know, this unevenness that exists in our country with, you know, some states have it legal, marijuana is legal in some states, it's not in others. That already sets up a problem.
Yep.
Right? So some people are incarcerated because of simple possession, and then others get to smoke it freely in their backyard around the fire
Come
pit. Right? So it's illogical. You know, anybody who's got some common sense says to themselves, this is just, you know, it's crazy. But you know who it's not crazy for? For those private prisons.
Come on.
Right? Yes, those private prisons are happy to have all of those folks on that simple possession, you know, BS, and because they're making huge money off of that.
I love it. Joe, what say you?
I think that Biden's doing a tremendous job. I'm always amazed at the things that he's doing. And one of those is legalizing doing this with the marijuana. I think it should be decriminalized and it should be legal. I mean, like you had mentioned earlier, it's like, why ruin somebody's life because they were smoking a joint? Because they had a joint. Right. You're going to ruin the rest of their life. I'm a retired state trooper, and I can tell you for a fact, I've never had a problem with anybody in 25 years that was smoking weed. They've always been mellow, very nice. I've never had a problem with anybody. And all the surrounding states have legalized marijuana. And how can you make a weed that grows naturally on this planet illegal? And yeah, because it's like you can lick frogs and get like a hallucinogenic effect. So
I'm sorry. You said lick frogs?
I think that's what he said.
You can lick frogs. There's a certain frog where it gives you some kind of hallucinogenic effect. And so what are they going to do? Outlaw frogs?
I think only in fairy tales do us princesses and queens want to kiss frogs. So I don't know. I don't know about that one. I'm a little scared of insects, rodents, and creepy crawlies, so I'm not.
Yeah. You're not going to walk through the woods looking for a frog, are you?
No. I don't even like going looking for mushrooms.
That's hilarious. Dana, could I add like one more comment about Joe Biden? And this is, I think that for the folks who are listening, this is such a monumental moment to do something like this. My understanding is, because I had just seen this article come out this afternoon and had just done a teeny bit of reading on it, but I think there have only been 2 mass pardons in the United States ever.
Wow.
So for Joe Biden to have gotten this done, there must have been mass coordination across various agencies and departments, you know, of course, looking into the legalities, you know, how are probably the far right are going to push back on this. I'm sure they're already prepping for those things, but there's only been 2 mass pardons.
Wow.
In our history. Wow. And here we go, Joe Biden going for number 3. It's awesome. And how about the vast majority of Americans want weed to be legalized anyway?
It's not a gateway drug. No. You're not going to want to use heroin because you smoked weed. So that whole argument about being a gateway drug is kind of a fallacy.
You're going to gain weight from all the Cheetos you eat, but you know.
I'm already doing that I love peanut M&Ms. So.
Okay, Joe. But how about the fact, you know, you bring that up that there's only been 2 mass pardons. How about the fact that there were no leaks, There were no suspicions. There was
Right.
nothing. This is how things are supposed. You knew nothing of this until you saw the report when he sent out the video. Hey, I'm about to knock this out, y'all. I mean, and you're right, all the coordinating that had to be done with the DOJ and the lawyers and finding out what they could and couldn't do. And it was kept on the hush hush. And it was like, boom, I just keep on delivering for y'all. I keep giving y'all what y'all asked for. Well, I'm doing the best I can to get you what you asked for.
Yeah.
That's
It's nice to it's nice to have somebody who actually acts like a president.
been a minute, ain't it? Them was the longest 4 years of our lives. And you know what?
Yeah.
We gotta touch on real quick before we dive into who you guys are. You know, his attendance down in Florida this week was he didn't throw any paper towels at people. He actually went down and you know, lives in Florida have been forever altered. And you know, these storms are only going to get worse. So he did not shy away from talking about climate change in front of DeSantis, right? He says, I'm here to help, but yo, we got to do something about this thing. You know, he didn't shy away from it. And people were very grateful that he was there. Talk about, I'm gonna start with you this time, Joe. Talk about the president's performance down in Florida this week.
That was amazing. I was really impressed that the way he worked with DeSantis. That was absolutely amazing. It was no shame, and like you said, he was very respectful. Not to, like you said, tossing paper towels to people. He was very respectful, and he gives you the sense that he actually cares. That it's not a facade. It's not fake. It's just inspiring to watch because he's doing a good job. And if people really looked at what he was doing, they would really support this president.
Yeah. Heidi?
Yeah, I like the word inspiration, Joe, that you just used. It was inspiring to watch him. He was being presidential and showing so much dignity and humanity to our fellow Floridians, right? So setting aside all the crap that's going on with DeSantis and everything. And it's impressive because there is so much bitterness between DeSantis and everybody. And he's able to set that aside because why? Because Joe cares about Americans.
Hello?
Plain and simple.
Yeah, I do too.
40 years he's been in government. That's what he does.
And he gets better. Like he, you know, where he was in 1980 is not where he is now, right? He's grown.
Right.
If he was in the same spot, you know, when he was doing the Anita Hill trials or, you know, hearings, then I'd be worried. But he's grown. He's, you know, where you start off and where you end shouldn't be the same place.
And I think he's showing us how to do it. He's showing us the way, because back in the day, Republicans and Democrats used to talk to each other, and there wasn't the polarization. So I think he's showing us the way of politics, the way it should be.
Yeah. And then, you know, one of the reasons why it was one way back then, it was because it was basically all white dudes. Now you have, you know, a nice mix of people, and you know, because I hear that, because and I know what you're saying, Joe. Like there used to be some, you know, working across the line, but it was all white dudes, right, for a long time. Now you got people of color and women. You know, the diversity. Like so those same white dudes have to, you know, be willing to extend an olive branch. But you are absolutely right. Joe is showing us how to do it. You don't have to be in somebody's demographic to empathize and sympathize and try to work with them. I feel you. You absolutely right. You absolutely right. All right, let's get into it. Y'all got me fired up. Indiana's own Dana Black, turn left. And as you guys are listening to these candidates tonight, I have included their Act Blue links in the title. So you know what? Every candidate needs a little bit of money. I know that we wish we didn't have to raise money for campaigns, but everyone does. So if you like what these candidates are talking about, please, please, please click on their donation link. Click on their Act Blue link. I'm going to say it. Click on their Act Blue link and donate to those campaigns, even if it's $5. Maybe even considering, since we're so close to the end of the year, that you make a recurring donation, $5 a week until the election. It's easy to set up. Make it happen. All right. So let's start. Heidi, I'm going to start with you. Tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Who am I? So, you know, my go-to always is that, I'm a mom first and a wife, an educator, an entrepreneur. I had my own business for a short while. And here now I'm a political candidate. I am first generation. My mom and dad were born in Europe during World War II, or actually born just before World War
Okay.
II. Their childhood they spent in Europe during World War II. So my mom is from a small town in Holland, the Netherlands, and my dad was from a small town in Austria. And they would tell us stories. I have 3 younger sisters, and they would tell us stories all the time growing up. While we were like doing the chores or like tending the garden in the backyard and all that kind of stuff. And my mom would tell stories about how they always, during the entire 4.5 years of the war, they always had extra people at the dinner table and sleeping in the barn in the evening because people were refugees. They had been bombed out or they were trying to escape. And they would come through the fields, and next thing you know, there would be people knocking at the door, and they were hungry and they needed some place to sleep. Mom said in order to make sure that there were enough potatoes to serve at dinner, they had to start peeling them right after breakfast.
Wow.
Yeah. Now my dad, he grew, like I said, small town in Austria, a very, very different experience. My mom was self-sustaining on a farm. And by the way, she had 11 brothers and sisters. So there was a whole house. Yeah, there was a whole house there. My dad had a much smaller family and had a completely different experience because Austria was Nazi occupied.
Okay.
And so he experienced cruelty and poverty to the extreme. But what else also interesting, he would share stories about how the Nazi soldiers would come into the home, not knocking on the door, they open the door and they come into the house and they just grabbed whatever it is that they want. And no matter that it might have been your last meal, right?
Wow.
And so what they soon learned, he and his family and the neighbors, is that they started burying food.
Wow.
So this way, then they would protect themselves from this idea that, they might take the last of it. And then Dad said that if that ever happened to the neighbors or family down the street or something, you went and dug it up later on, and then you took it down to their house.
Wow.
And so that's how I grew up.
Wow.
Listening to those stories. And so at the epicenter of all of that, of course, it's like family,
Yeah.
family, family, family. It's the most precious thing. And then the second piece is empathy, that we take care of each other. And so that's the core of who I am. That's who I am. That it's about family and it's about empathy. And I have brought that to my own children, and now I'm bringing it to my campaign. And I share that story because it's real and it happened, it's honest. But I think it illustrates for people who I am at my core.
I love it. So, okay, but wait a minute now. All right. So where did you go to school again?
Like in grade school?
Undergrad, graduate.
Undergrad. I went to IU Bloomington
Okay.
for undergrad.
And what'd you study?
Yeah. I studied public health and public policy.
Okay.
And there's actually a little bit of a funny story with that, is that I actually had gotten myself into the business school and had done all the prereqs and all that kind of stuff. And then the summer before I was supposed to enter into the business school at IU Bloomington, I learned about the School of Public Environmental Affairs. And it was like my head exploded, because I was like, how is it that I've been on this campus and I didn't know that this program existed? I called up my dad and I said, hey, Dad, I got to tell you something. I'm going to be down here at IU another year because I need new prereqs in order to get into the School of Public Environmental Affairs. And honestly, that obviously was the best decision ever made, because I've been in public health and public education now for over 30 years.
I love it. And so, you were probably super successful in your private life. What made you decide to run for office?
Oh, so, I have always been involved in campaigns and politics, always operating behind the scenes and helping candidates. But then Roe happened. And that was, well, let me back up. Actually, for about 5 months, I was looking to recruit someone to run against my opponent, and nobody would do it. My friends started ghosting me. They were like, they wouldn't even return my text anymore. They're just like, I'm over it. Stop texting me. I don't know anybody, Heidi. There's nobody who wants to run against him. And then Roe happened on a Friday. On Saturday morning, I come downstairs for breakfast, and my youngest, she's 19, and she looks up at me with tears in her eyes, and she says to me, Mom, what does this world hold for me? I am supposed to return down to Bloomington in just a few weeks. Why should I even bother getting a college education? Indiana doesn't value women. And I was like, I was speechless. And then my 25-year-old, without missing a beat, she says to me, looks me in the eyes, says to me, Mom, it's time. And I was like, oh, I knew exactly what she meant. And I said, oh my gosh, it's time. I have to run, don't I? And she said, yes, you do. Let's go talk to Dad.
I love it. You know what?
And that's how it happened. I answered the call. I was scared to death, Dana, scared to death. It made me nauseated. An instant headache. You're scared to death to put yourself out there. But you know what? My fear could not be more important than my daughter's fear of their future.
I love that. And how about you raising, self-aware women who are encouraging their mom to represent them, not, keep taking care of us, mama. Keep taking care of us.
Right.
I'm going to come back to you because I got a few more questions, but I got, Joe, I don't want you to feel like you're being left out. Tell the people who.
Oh,
I know, right?
I'm enjoying listening to Heidi's story.
I know, right? We're going to bring her back in, but go ahead and tell the people who you are and where you come from.
Well, I'm Joe, and I'm a region rat. If you don't know what that is, it's like you know what that is,
I
right?
do. Come on now, region.
A region rat. Yes, I have a region rat T-shirt. As a matter of fact, I should have wore it, but that's where Tom McDermott's from. I was born in the same city, up in Hammond, Indiana, and I spent most of my life up there. That's where I went to school. Was up there, and Griffith, and I went to Lake Central High School. You ever see the show Welcome Back, Kotter?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my class. That was filmed after my high school class. So
okay,
that's
wait a
what my
minute.
high
Who was
school.
Horshack?
It wasn't. Well, it could have been me. I could have been Vinnie Barbarino. Got me acting silly now. But that's where I grew up. Was up in the region, and right out of high school, I joined the Army, and I went to Germany for 2 years, and this was when it was a West Germany. So that gives you a clue how old I am.
Yep.
But the wall hadn't come down yet. So, and I went out, when I was in Germany, I met a priest in Rome because I was traveling to Rome. And when I got out of the Army, I actually went to the seminary. I was studying to be a Franciscan priest.
Oh.
Yeah, go figure. But I couldn't live without women, so I had to leave.
Hey, I'm with you when you right.
Yeah, that was a tough decision. I couldn't do it. So I followed other avenues, and I got my degree in bachelor's in communications, and I ended up joining the state police in 95.
Okay.
And I went back in the military in 98 with the Air Guard. And I worked undercover with the FBI up in Gary on a police and political corruption task force. So I have a very low tolerance for corruption. And then I got activated on 9/11 and got sent to the desert. I spent 3 tours in the desert and ended up retiring from the Air Force in 2014.
Wow.
And I ended up retiring from the state police 2 years ago.
Wow.
So
that's a
in
life.
a nutshell.
That is a life. Thank you for your service, Joe. Thank you.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
all these experiences though are what I'm carrying into this. When I was in the seminary, we had to volunteer for to work in soup kitchens and nursing homes. And it taught me a lot about compassion, and like Heidi talked about empathy and stuff like that, about seeing another side of life that I hadn't seen before. And so I take all those experiences with me, working as a state trooper and helping people. I wanted to be a sheriff like Andy Griffith. That was my goal. Believe it or not, that's the way I was.
You in the right state to find a Mayberry, that's for sure.
I know. I think I lived in. I still do. I still live in Mayberry. It's a nice little town. And So I would, like, right before I retire, I would go to the Speedway gas station there in town, get my cup of coffee, and I would stand there in the morning and hold the door open for people and greet them and just get to know my neighbors and my community and stuff. As a matter of fact, I don't mean to hog everything,
You're
but
not.
my campaign thing is Popo Joe, and I don't know if you know how I got the nickname Popo Joe. But when I was working the road in Wabash, I would take my daughter to school, elementary school, and I would go in after I dropped her off, and I would go have breakfast with the special needs kids when I was in
Oh my
uniform.
God.
And they called me Popo Joe. So that's how the nickname kind of stuck with me, was and I loved those kids. I used to chaperone with them on Tin Caps games and going to the museum. I really loved those guys. And so that's how I got the name Popo Joe.
Man, this is a
So,
lived life. I'm telling you. Now listen, after
yeah.
serving in the Air Force, being a trooper, having to, I
Yeah.
know, which wasn't a fun time fighting corruption in the police department.
No.
That couldn't have garnered you a whole lot of friends in
No.
uniform.
No. They didn't know if I was investigating somebody or just being nice. But I was investigating police officers that were committing murders on duty and doing drug rip-offs and money rip-offs and all kinds. There's some bad cops.
Wow.
Wow.
Did you have something to say, Heidi, before
No, I'm in awe right now. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, because see, I know in the community and in the culture, we talk about, what we've experienced at the hand of law enforcement, but typically we are ignored. Typically, most of the country is ignoring us of our experiences and the things we were going through. But here you are telling us, like, yo, I had to like investigate this. I mean, that is huge. Someone like you in our state house, would be fantastic. But
Yeah.
what made you take off? I mean, you could just be chilling right now. You could be hanging out with your
Yeah.
buddies at the school, whatever. What made you decide to put your name on the ballot?
Shenanigans.
Oh,
That's what put me on the ballot, as I was tired of Republican shenanigans. And there was nobody running against my opponent.
Yep.
And I didn't want that to be a blank space. I mean, we have to have a choice. We have to have a choice for it to save our democracy. We have to fight for that democracy. And so instead of sitting on the sidelines and stuff, I thought I'd take all my experience and stuff working in state government and working together with different peoples, different kind of, ethnic groups, religions, put all that together for the state of Indiana and give people a choice. So I jumped in after the primary because I didn't see anybody running. There were hardly any Democrats on the ticket.
Yep.
So I'm like, nope, that's got to stop.
Oh my God,
That's
you
gotta stop.
two are filling my heart and my soul tonight. Y'all are two of them, some of the most dynamic humans I have met in a long time. Heidi, I want to touch on something with you, and obviously, Joe, feel free to jump in. We Republicans are always talking about immigration this, immigration that, and I wanted to highlight that because both of your parents are immigrants, and you wouldn't be here serving our community the way that you are if it were not for your parents immigrating to this nation. You see, I mean, I understand we want to make it legal and all that, but talk to us about your parents' immigrant experience and what you would like to see, maybe how we do things differently.
My goodness. Well, their experience was so different. I know that at the turn of the century, immigrants were not treated well, right? When
Still
they
not.
arrived. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute.
Ellis
Turn of
Island,
which
right.
century?
You're right. Oh my God, I wasn't even thinking of that. I'm thinking early 1900s.
So I take it.
Right?
Wait a minute. I take it we're all Gen Xers here. Yeah. Okay.
You mean like a boomer?
Who's a boomer?
Me.
You're a boomer?
I'm a boomer. Heck yeah.
Oh.
I'm proud of it.
And then probably Dana and I came right after the boomers.
Yeah, I'm a Gen
Right
Xer.
after the boomers. Yeah.
I own an Apple computer and an Apple phone, if that tells you anything. So I'm a boomer.
At least you didn't say Macintosh.
Yeah.
But go ahead. I'm sorry. We're having too much fun.
So I know. So when we think about like my mom and dad immigrating here, they were welcomed. My dad came in 1959 and mom arrived in 1960, and they felt welcomed.
Mm-hmm.
And there were people here who were happy that they were arriving. And my dad came with an 8th grade education.
Wow.
He didn't even go to high school, and he didn't know any English. And he lived above a Chinese restaurant, and he worked construction.
Wow.
And it was the guys on the construction site who taught him how to speak English.
Wow.
And then it was one of the foremen who said, Frank, you are just such a friendly guy. Your smiles, you're always talking to everybody. You need to go into sales. And my dad's like, I should maybe I'll go check that out. And so next thing you know, my dad is selling used cars, and that is what he did for his entire 36 years of his career.
Wow.
He sold used cars and he became a sales car manager. But that's his love, was selling used cars. And he could support his family, a wife and 4 girls, and he put all 4 of us through college, and he put my mom through college. She arrived with a high school degree, and she got her bachelor's degree and then went on to earn her master's of social work.
Wow. So
and he could do that with an 8th grade education and being a car salesman.
Wow. Now, isn't that something? Like, we here's a good story, and we got people, who are fleeing, same like your dad, fleeing, tyrannical situations, but and we don't treat them like we treated and welcomed your family. Don't you wish that we had that same come on, let me be here to help you?
Aren't we supposed to? I mean, that's what, but this is like, the time of year, this always happens like the months before the election, is that the Republicans will start peddling fear, and they'll make people afraid of immigrants. They'll make people afraid that they're going to come and take your jobs. They're going to take your stuff, the stuff that you worked for. And that fear creates anger, and then anger creates hate. We should be welcoming these people with open arms. These people are, like you said, are seeking shelter. They're running from regimes that are oppressive. This is our country to share. Aren't we? We're supposed to clothe people when they when they need clothes. We're supposed to feed people when they're hungry. We're supposed to visit people in jail. All those things, and I don't see too much of that happening when you put people on a bus and ship them somewhere else. You know what I mean?
That was dirty.
Yeah, that was despicable.
That was dirty.
That was despicable.
Yeah, is that the way we greet?
I don't know how that man goes to bed at night.
You can't shame the devil.
I don't know how people are friends with that man.
You can't shame the devil.
Yeah, you're right.
You
said it,
because if it's in you to be, I would have never even thought of nothing. My brain does not even contemplate. Ooh, here's an idea. Let's get some folks from Texas and ship them to Martha's. Who thinks of that? And think about how much tax dollars.
Horrible. That's horrible to do that to people. And aren't we all immigrants?
Yeah.
We're all immigrants. So who claims? How are we able to treat other people like that when we're immigrants ourselves?
Right.
Because we're selfish. We get it. We it's so funny how it happens. Some of us get slightly successful because we go to college or whatever, and then we think we did it all by ourselves. And you didn't do anything by yourself. You didn't even learn to write your name by yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's like we're supposed to share and be happy that somebody has something good or something nice happened in their life. Be happy for them instead of like being jealous because you didn't get that same thing.
Right. Hater, honey, brush them haters off, baby.
But Joe, your point though, and it goes to the heart of it. It actually isn't about it's not about immigration, the Republicans and their focus on immigration. It's about the anger and the fear and the hate. They want us divided, right? They don't want us coming together and solving problems because they're trying to hoard the power and the money for themselves, for a few choice people. And then they leave the crumbs and the hate and the fear for the rest of us, right?
Yeah.
That's what, and that's not how I grew up. God knows
No,
that's not how I grew
it's
up.
just a few. You brought up something that is really just really important to me, is like the whole, I was thinking about this earlier, is that whole, the 2% of people that have all the wealth. It's like that trickle down theory. If we take care of the rich people, then eventually some crumbs might fall to us. But the crumbs are not enough. We need people that, like you and everybody that's running for office, the Democrats, stand with the working class. They stand with the immigrants. That's where that's what the great,
That's how I grew up. I grew
yeah,
up working class,
exactly.
I had a middle class, and it was an amazing, going camping in the summer times and fire pit, fires in the summer, catching the fireflies and playing tag and all that kind of stuff. It was simple and it was wonderful.
But what happened to that? Hoosiers had a can-do attitude, and we always came together to help each other. Whatever came up, we helped each other. You didn't even know the person, but everybody would band together and help each other. But something happened to that, and it's not there anymore.
Well, because we put a lot of emphasis on the wrong things. Because remember before, we like to produce stuff. We like to create and produce stuff. Now we don't even value that. We don't value you. Oh, you use your hands? I need you to, I'm going to value the person that can take a hedge fund and make, $20 million out of that. We don't, the last time I checked, a hedge fund manager can't fix my toilet. You know what I'm saying? If I got a light switch that's bad, I need an electrician. We don't value, that hard work anymore. We literally make people feel like second-class citizens if they want to work with their hands, not recognizing that that's an amazing skill and that's a different type of intelligence that a lot of people don't have. Like I can never be a carpenter because I can't even draw a straight line with a ruler.
Yeah. And if we don't stand with the working class, what happens is that people start to lose faith in the system.
Yeah.
They start to lose faith because it's not about them. It's about the rich. It's about the corporate greed.
Absolutely.
So we have to stand with the working class so that they know that they're not forgotten, they're not forgotten, that they're important, that the billionaires make their money off the backs of the working class.
Absolutely.
And
that's right.
What was a horrible example of that was when the train strike was going to happen. These people were making record profits, $20 billion in record profits, the railroad companies, and they couldn't even pay their workers sick time.
Well, see, that's just trifling, right? I mean, those are like the robber barons. Listen, if you study a little history, you'll know that we're repeating itself. These are the same robber barons. That's why it's so important that we must be able to collective bargain. We've got to be able to make our union stronger because we are stronger together. And I often hear, folks, and Heidi, I got another question for you. We often hear folks talk about corruption in unions, but is there anything more corrupt than Tyco and Enron? All of them, you know what I'm saying? Like you overlook the corruption by the Trump organization, but you're gonna hold, the folks that are making your cars, or that are fixing your water pump, whatever the heck, you know what I'm saying?
Why are we taking care of the rich? Why are we taking care of the rich?
Because I get it. They keep telling them, they make them believe that they too can be rich. No, you won't. No, you won't. We need to tell people the truth. Yeah. We need to tell people the truth.
Yeah, when's the last time a rich man took care of a poor man?
Well, there's a few that do that. I mean, there's some. Think about it. The last great wealthy man that took care of poor people was FDR. This is.
I was just reading about him.
Yeah. Okay, but Heidi, earlier today earlier in our conversation we were talking about private prisons. Criminal justice reform is something that gets tossed around an awful lot. And you were in about public health services and things like that. Talk to me about what you see or what you would like to see as far as Indiana and maybe doing some criminal justice reform. What does it look like for you?
So there's a couple of things that I would be focused on. One is we need to have some really serious conversation about diversion programs for folks who have mental health issues, right? We cannot use our jails as mental health hospitals. And that's what we're currently doing right now, right? So somebody misbehaves because of a mental health issue. They're then thrown in jail. Oh, and by the way, they can't pay their bail. Now they're incarcerated, right? And then everything goes haywire because now they don't have access to care or medicine, et cetera. So we have to do way better about those kind of diversion programs. The other thing too is we also need to be looking at this whole issue of bail, right? So people get charged these, they get charged, a charge, okay, that, they got in trouble, they need to have their hands slapped. But why is it the folks who have money get to have their hands slapped and walk out that night, but the guy who gets his hands slapped and has no money has to spend now maybe 10 or 14 days in jail?
And even have less money.
And he has less money.
Yeah.
And the taxpayer has to foot the bill to keep that guy or that woman in jail. It defies logic, actually. It defies logic. Why would we do that? And then third, nonviolent offenses. What are we doing there? And and the law is applied in such an uneven way. I think that's the thing that is the most infuriating thing. Again, people who have some prestige or cachet, they manage to get off or get something that's quite minimal. But the person who doesn't have access to that is going to be in jail for a long time for a nonviolent offense. Surely there are different ways that we can rehabilitate people, because what do we know about jail and prison? Folks don't get better when they're there. That is not the goal of jail and prison. Hey, listen, and I know that there are now success stories about people who are, getting their GEDs and they're getting skills. I even read an article about MIT has got a coding school going on now in a few jails, prisons, and it sounds amazing. But that's this many, right? That's not the whole thing, and we need to be looking at that. Here's an interesting thing: our local jail during COVID, they needed to reduce the number of inmates at the jail because of COVID. It was overpopulated. They were able to reduce the population by nearly 33%.
Wow.
Because why? They looked at people who were there because they couldn't put bail.
Wow.
They couldn't make bail. Okay, we're gonna monitor them. They're gonna have a probation. They're gonna, it's not like they just get tossed back out on the street. There's a process, just like the person who paid bail. But now we didn't collect that bail. That person goes out on the street, and oh, by the way, the taxpayers now not spending money on that individual. The other thing they looked at is nonviolent offenders. Who doesn't really need to be here? And do you know, for that short window of time, you saw criminal reform. You saw jail and prison reform operating in real time during COVID.
How about that?
People came together. The prosecutor came together. The sheriff came together. I mean, I heard the whole story from credible folks on the inside, and it was amazing. It was amazing.
It's amazing what a pandemic will bring out, huh?
Yeah, exactly. They were problem solving and doing it in real time, and it was amazing stuff. And if I am elected to office, I will elevate that conversation and that experience. How did you all do it? What were the outcomes, right? And then how do we improve upon it and make it more permanent? I mean, you guys, this is not hard stuff. You just have to have the will to do it. That's all this is.
It's hard change is hard. And it's especially in the police world. Those are really, really good points, Heidi. Those are awesome. I think I would look at it more from the law enforcement.
Okay. I was going to give you an opportunity to chime in on this one.
But it's hard. I know for a fact in the police world, change is hard. People get used to doing things a certain way, and they resist the change. It's hard, but it has to happen. Policing cannot go on like it is right now. It's something that has to change. And we used to be called peace officers, and somewhere along the line we became police officers. And we need to stop being, we don't need to police people. I think we need to be more peace officers and be a part of the communities. Um, there was that case a few months ago, and I think it was in Ohio, where that young man was shot like 32 times or something like that. Young black man who was unarmed, that was being stopped for an equipment violation and ends up dying from that. I mean, that kind of stuff has to change. And from my perspective, I have a firsthand view of that kind of stuff that happens. But pursuits because of an equipment violation, or like Heidi said, for a nonviolent crime, even if they had a warrant for a nonviolent crime, is that worth killing them over?
Oh God, no.
So I'm like, it's not. And it's like, I get so angry when I hear the news that a police officer shot and killed somebody because he thought they had a gun.
Well, and see, now that we have a constitutional carry, they're going to think everyone has a gun.
Right.
And I was so afraid of the law, not because, oh my God, what could possibly go wrong, mass shootings, but I always looked at it from the other end. How many more times, I fit the description, especially since I cut my hair off, and I'm a fidgety, animated person who waves her hands and does all kind of stuff, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And you don't know if I have a permit because nobody has to have one. And some of these scaredy cat police officers, there are going to be so many more tragedies now because of that constitutional carry.
I think policing is going to change. It's going to be tough. I have some really cool ideas, but about like, do police really have to carry a gun all the time? Why do you have to bring a gun to everything?
Right.
In 25 years, I've never shot anybody.
Imagine that.
So, and do we have to patrol all the time? Do we have to drive? In 25 years, I never rolled up on a crime in progress.
Wow.
So all those things, like Heidi said, need a good, serious conversation. You need to be able to sit down and talk about the hard issues like that.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. Democrat, you got to be able
we won't get the opportunity to have that conversation unless our citizens, the Hoosiers, vote for Joe, vote for Heidi,
exactly.
vote for the Democrats in the state.
And listen, guys, we can, obviously this is a conversation that I probably should have booked for 2 hours because time flies when you're having fun. And I haven't even had a chance to ask you what your 3 issues are that you are focused in on at the selection. Man, this has been a fantastic conversation. Heidi, give me your 3 issues that you were highlighting on your campaign.
Women's choice, having autonomy over their own bodies. Public education, and I got to go for the common sense gun laws. I would repeal that constitutional carry.
I love it. Joe, what are your 3?
Yeah. First one, same as Heidi, women's rights. I would like to see a ERA. I'm sorry, I had to spit that out. ERA amendment passed eventually, because it's amazing that we still haven't been able to do that. And the pro-choice, that a woman's right to choose. Number 2 is LGBTQ plus rights.
Hey.
My oldest daughter's gay, and I just she married her partner Saturday, and I performed.
Congratulations, you gained a daughter.
Awesome.
Yes, it was a really cool wedding. And then number 3 is a livable wage, and because that encompasses everything, like teachers, workers. We need a livable wage so that people aren't going into debt to survive.
Yeah.
Man, you guys are flat out phenomenal. I mean, I've never seen an hour go by so quickly. Heidi, tell the people where they can find you.
At HeidiForIndiana.com. And you can just enter in your email address there and get in contact with our campaign, and we'll get right back with you. We're actually doing a huge volunteer roll call on Monday evening at 6:30. We're going to do a big Zoom and get everybody organized. We already have a great team together, but usually now during these last 4 to 5 weeks, people are kind of itching now, like, how do I get connected? Can I put in a few hours for a campaign? And this is it.
I love it. Do you have any fundraisers coming up?
Oh, Lordy, I've had so many fundraisers. The good people of St. Joe County have been amazing to me. I actually do have 2 more fundraisers, but they're house parties.
Okay.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, probably don't want to. Yeah, we don't.
Yep.
Man, okay, so and we'll tap in, and we definitely need volunteers. Joe, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me Swisher for Senate 17 at gmail.com. That's my email, or Twitter, Joe number 4 Indiana or INDSEN 17. And you can locate me there. Just shoot me an email if you have questions. And my Facebook is Joe Swisher for Indiana Senate District 17. I'd love to hear from people if you have any questions.
You know what? This is probably I don't ever want to make anybody feel bad, but this was a fun conversation because, you know, first of all, y'all have amazing personalities. Like, you know, you're just engaging, and but I think the reason why your personalities shine so well is because you are passionate about looking out and being compassionate for people. Everything y'all talked about tonight were about how we can help the community, how we improve lives for people, not just I'm running for office. I mean, I could have been, you know, this was such a free flowing conversation in that, because y'all believe it, y'all live it, and y'all believe it. And I think our listeners, whoever's listening to this show tonight, will recognize that you guys just don't do this. What you're feeling and thinking isn't something that you're doing for a vote or a dollar. You're doing it because it's in your heart to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes,
I'm digging that.
We dig you, Dana. I mean, I love you. You're an amazing person. It's always a treat to see you. I mean, this was a huge event in my life. It's one of those things that I'll remember forever.
Oh my goodness. See, I'm always reaching out to people. Come on, talk to me. Because I know I can talk a lot, but y'all had me quiet today.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dana, for inviting me. This was
Heidi,
awesome.
It is.
And I got to meet Joe.
Yes.
And hear Joe's story, and I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
You too.
All right.
You were awesome.
Indiana's own Dana Black. Listen, I want to remind everybody, this was a great conversation. Y'all find these candidates, donate to their campaign, volunteer, help them out, do what you got to do. These folks are dynamic. I'm loving, I got to go to the region in South Bend to get this kind of energy? No. Everybody in the other 91 counties, y'all need to get like these two right here. I'm just saying. Okay, that's my plug. But listen, October 11th is your final day to register to vote. If you have not registered to vote, please do so before October 11th. That is the deadline. You don't get to do it on the day of. You don't get to do it anytime after that. October 11th is your deadline to register to vote. And you know what that means? October 12th is the first day of early voting. Do you have a plan? How many people are you taking to the polls with you? Have you reached out to everybody in your universe to make sure that they have a ride to the polls? Have you volunteered to work a polling station if you can? You know, we have vote centers down here in Marion County, so there's a lot of them. Listen, I know everyone tells you that this is the most consequential election in our lives, but I'm going to say this. Right now, we have in front of us a choice. Our democracy and trying to be a more perfect union and continuing to recognize, acknowledge, and then offer solutions to our real problems, or are we going to turn our back to authoritarianism and fascism and religious zealots, Christian religious zealots, who will determine that your life is not as valuable as somebody else's life? Because if they can make you give life, then they can tell you you can't give life. Yeah, that's a lot of control for other people to have. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I need you to understand that, you know, I know it's not a presidential election, but there are so many consequential races that are happening right here in our borders, 92 counties. Forget about yes, we need to send Frank Mervan. He's got a tough race up there in District 1. He's got a Magette running against him. What's a Magette? Oh, you know, remember like the Ronettes? You know, Ronnie Spector had a group full of girls that would sing, black girls that would sing, you know, songs for him. You know, but Magettes, Trump got a bunch of black women that will sing a bunch of songs for him. Magettes. He's running against the maggot. Y'all need to get behind Frank Mervan and push him over the line, help him out. You know, there's so much work that needs to be done. But I personally don't want to relive the history that my parents had to live through.
No,
I am
not the
not
60s.
interested in going back to Jim Crow, because if you saw the arguments for Alabama's redistricting, it was hideous. The fact that that state has 27% Black population, but they only have one majority Black congressional district is a crime. And the lower courts actually said it was. The fact that you have a former orange menace stealing the government's documents, talking about give me back my paper, and reaching out to one of the Supreme Court justices who just happens to be over the 11th Circuit. And his wife just got through testifying in front of the January 6th insurrection. See, there's a lot of things that are happening that we cannot turn our, it can be overwhelming. I understand. But we cannot turn our back on what matters. The reason why they work so hard to take the vote from you is because it's so important. They wouldn't work so hard to limit your access to the ballot box if they didn't recognize that if we can keep y'all from voting, and we make y'all believe it don't count, and it don't matter, then by the time we put all of our lawmakers in place, then there's nothing you can do to stop us from treating you like crap. You know, you just heard a story of a daddy's girl. I'm gonna throw it out there, of her story for her father and what he went through in Austria. You heard a police officer share the stories of what happened when you have rogue police officers, canvassing our communities. That's what they want. They want authoritarianism, and they want a police state. And if you're not feeling this, and if you're not understanding where we are in the course of our history, man, you missing it. It's not just about politics. It's not just about I like to shine. There's real work that needs to be done here. I was with the Allen County Young Democrats last night, and these young folks are worried about their future. Look, Gen Xers and Boomers, look, we got a good 30 years left, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe if we lucky. These young folks are worried.
Well, but Dana, I would say that, we're responsible for some of what's happened here.
Absolutely.
We were asleep at the wheel, and that's another reason why I felt like I had to step up into this space, because I have to at least get started fixing it so that we can then turn the baton over to the next generation.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm getting at here, y'all. Yeah. We've got to make sure that we leave this government intact so that the next generation can lead and solve some of our real problems. We're not a perfect nation. We never have been. We have a lot of issues. But we have a system of government in place that allows us to address the problems we have and fix them. But if we don't step up, we won't have that opportunity. All right? All right. Indiana's own Dana Black. Turn left. Heidi, thank you. Joe, thank you. You guys were like, this was fun. Like,
thanks,
straight up fun.
Dana, it was a good time.
All right. You guys enjoy the rest